Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope everybody's doing well, as tonight we are going to do something a little different. We've done this a few times, but really looking forward to having our Seattle expansion draft roundtable, where I'll be joined by three of my favorite gents as we dive into who we would want to see on the Seattle Kraken team come Wednesday night. We'll pick a player from each franchise. We'll kind of tell you why we're taking a player, trying to keep it under the salary cap floor, which is always interesting. And we're going to go through it alphabetical order. So we're going to start with the Anaheim Ducks, Arizona Coyotes, Boston Bruins, so on and so forth. But joining me on the panel tonight, I'll go through it as as our selection process goes. I'm going to start with Dawson, Warman. Dawson, how's work and how's everything going in life?
Oh, not too bad, Jug. We're getting busy during construction season, so kind of is always something on the go. Can't complain though.
No, that's good. Making more people pissed off by blocking off the roads, but it's just part of the gig, I guess.
So many people.
Second, he's my co-host on the Breaking Bad podcast. Everybody knows him. He's more popular than me. More people tell me that week after week. So one of the biggest Maple Leafs fans this side of the Mississippi. Shamus, Fillmore. Shay, always good to see you again, but this time it's on a Monday. How you doing, my friend?
Very well. Come up back to back. You guys are gonna be sick of hearing my voice after this week. But no, I'd spread some love. You know, you got so many Leafs fans listening, so I just thought I'd toss on the jersey. I wore one for the last roundtable too, so just got to keep it interesting, keep it fresh, and we're my second favorite player behind Alex Dagg. So it's always good. But no, I'm excited to do this. I've been thinking about this for a while, and now that the listings are all set, and we can debate on who's going to be a Kraken in a couple weeks or a week.
Yeah, well, as a Maple Leafs fan, how are you coping with the potential loss of Alex Kerfoot or Travis Dermott or Ilya Mikheyev?
Just full on devastated with who he selected, but I would have much rather see someone like Marner maybe be up for selection, but me and Dubas have two different minds, so I guess that's why he gets paid a little bit more than I do.
Right, fair enough. And the last guy in the panel joined me last week for a great baseball podcast. We had a couple good laughs as we talked about his Yankees, who are now, comes on the show, and now they're on a hot streak, taking 2 out of 3 from the Boston Red Sox over the weekend. But Casey Ward, how are things up in Miramichi?
We're not doing too bad, Jug. Rushed home, broke every speeding limit on the way to get home from the golf course. Had to get here on time, so we're doing good. Now that the Yankees are, turning around in the second half, we'll have some interesting talks, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good to see Aroldis Chapman pick up a save last night as well. So all good things on the horizon for the New York Yankees. But tonight we're talking Seattle, the 32nd franchise in the NHL. They've been on the horizon for a while. They're finally going to have they kind of already made a selection today, assigning Chris Driedger to a 3-year, $10.5 million contract. Good for Chris, coming off really a journeyman in the league, and I'm happy to see him get rewarded for his great play last year. But like I said, we're going to do alphabetical order. So the protection lists are out there. If you're following along, you can look it up at ESPN.com, Sportsnet, at the available players list, and the protected players and available players to kind of follow along with us and make your own team. Let us know what we're doing wrong. Mostly me, but just say what we're doing wrong and kind of debate and share your thoughts. So like I said, we're going to start with Dawson, and we'll start with the Anaheim Ducks. So you are on the clock, Ron Francis. Who are you taking from the Anaheim Ducks?
I think there's only a couple players you can take from the Anaheim Ducks, looking at the available players. But the top guy that stands out to me is Hayden Fleury. He's a young guy, small cap hit. He's 25 years old, I think.
Yeah.
And he's got some good potential. Played well in Carolina and then got traded over. But there's a couple close seconds. I'll wait till you guys go before we start discussing that.
Okay. Shamus, who are you selecting?
A little out of the way, but I took Alexander Volkov from he got traded last year from Tampa. I always thought he never had the chance to move up in that lineup. He's kind of a scoring winger for people who don't really know much about him. He played in the playoffs a tad bit last year, But I think he's got a lot of skill, a lot of potential, but he just hasn't got the chance yet. So place like this where, they're going to be mismatching the lines all the time, I think it's a good chance for him to get in and really get some reps and kind of prove that, he can be good. He is an RFA, but I mean, obviously, if you take him, he's really got little choice but to sign with you unless he wants to play in Russia.
Right. No, I like that. Casey, how about yourself?
Well, I kind of flip-flopped on who I was going to pick here. It was tough, but I decided to go with the same fellow as Dawson. I went with Hayden Fleury. Kind of a rough year last year for him, but we're going to hope that he can, maybe turn it around and be a good piece for the Kraken moving forward.
Yeah, the fact that two of the guys took the player I'm selecting makes me really question it now. But I'm going to stick with who I had on the paper. I'm going to also select Hayden Fleury, and I like him, to your point, Dawson, because of his cap hit. I also like him because he kind of reminds me of some of the people Vegas took. Nate Schmidt was kind of an unproven defenseman in Washington. He came over and really found his groove in Vegas. I look at Fleury that could do potentially the same thing. He got pushed out of Carolina with the emergence of one of Shamus's favorite players, Jake Bean. And we'll see. I think he could be a top 6 defenseman and not be somebody that you worry about playing in your top 6.
I got a question. No one here selected Adam Henrique. Was that just because, he's washed, or is it because, he's French Canadian? I don't know.
You guys can sound off on that if you have any thoughts.
Well, the only pick that I was flip-flopping between for the Ducks here was Sonny Milano. He's the only other piece that I was thinking about, but what I have on my forwards, I think I'm okay with leaving him off the board, so that's why I went with Fleury. But I never really even had any interest in Henrique at all.
Yeah,
the same boat. Milano was my my second choice. A little bit of showcase, but I think Fleury was the better choice in that case.
I like Henrique. I think at the Worlds he kind of showed that he's still got something left in the tank. If however much that tournament means to you, but I have a few veterans on my roster here, so I think they would take his slot, and a third, fourth line center. I have a few guys that I'd rather plug and play rather than Adam Henrique, but I do like him as a player. So I hope he can turn it around. He's had a tough go last couple of years. Did anybody think about taking Ryan Getzlaf?
Negative.
Too risky.
Yeah, I wanted to, but I couldn't. I love the guy, but he's a little past his prime. And to be honest, I don't know if he'd accept going to Seattle. He might just hang them up. He sees like that kind of guy, or he's an Anaheim lifer. So pivoting to the Arizona Coyotes, interesting team. They're kind of in transition. They're in a constant rebuild, but they do have some good young players available. Dawson, who did you select from the Arizona Coyotes?
I went with forward this time, center specifically. Went with Christian Fischer. Big guys, 6'2". I don't know his cap hit right offhand, but I don't think it's enormous.
No.
Probably somewhere in like a 1.2 million or something like that. And he fits in as a good third, potentially second line PP, something like that. Get a little bit of offense out of him, but he's a good overall player in my mind.
Yeah, no, I like Fisher as well. Shamus, who'd you select?
I picked a deeper winger. I took Tyler Pitlick. I really liked him in Philly, and I thought that was a good signing by Arizona last year. For the dumpster fire that they had of a team, I thought he was kind of a bright spot. So, not protecting him maybe come back to bite them, and I hope they take him, because I think fresh new paint on him. I think he'd prove a lot of people wrong about what they thought in Philly.
Yeah, he's got a really good story too. He's had some blood clot issues. He's fought back from that, and he broke his leg as well in the league. So really good story. Former first round pick of the Edmonton Oilers, but I like his story, and I like his complete level a lot. Casey, who did you take?
Well, when I heard Dawson say Christian Fisher, I just had to laugh because that's 2 for 2. That's who I had marked down as well, just based on the cap. I think he played a good, strong game as well, and I think he could chip in if he has a chance to prove himself. So I think that's going to be my pick for the Coyotes.
Yeah, I'm getting worried here. I also took Christian Fisher. I like him because I think he's a prototypical forward in the regular season that's not going to give you a whole lot offensively. He reminds me of a number of the Montreal Canadiens that, his output's going to be limited at best. But when it comes to the playoffs, I think he plays that physical game. I think he can be similar to a Philippe Danault, that he can kind of turn it on, be a good defensive stalwart, not as good of a skater, but he's got that girth to him. He's not afraid to get involved physically. And I think he could be just a good checking line center for Seattle in their first year. He's not going to take any shit from anyone either.
I almost took him. I just have a couple of checkers deeper in my lineup that I thought were a little bit more skilled offensively. But if Pitlick wasn't sitting there, he'd be my next option 100%.
Yeah,
Who you guys' close seconds?
I almost took Nicky Almerson.
He crossed my mind too.
I like him, and I think he'd be a good guy, good leader to have in your room. He's a winner. But the wear and tear kind of scared me out of doing that. But he was high on my list.
Yeah, could come back for him for free agency as well if you really still wanted him, right?
Yeah.
If you weren't if he wasn't to accept back, I doubt he's going back to Arizona, but it's hard to say.
How about you, Case? Who was high on your list?
For the Coyotes, I was looking at Antti Raanta.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how we select goalies, because I know for myself I pick quite a few. But it's hard to pick goalies, but at the same time they're so valuable, especially in trades. I think for Seattle they can really get a good haul because so many teams need goalies year after year now. It's constant turnover. So we'll see where we go with goaltending. Pivoting to these first two teams are really teams that are bottom feeders, but you go to the Boston Bruins, they're a playoff team year over year. They're still in that win now window. So losing a player will hurt them more than the Anaheim Ducks and Arizona Coyotes. Dawson, who is coming off the Boston Bruins roster?
This one was kind of not a little bit out there, but I don't know if you guys would choose the same one, but I took Jeremy Lauzon. Close. Anyways, I think he's a young enough guy, sturdy back end, a decent enough skater, someone you can rely on the back end without taking too much of a huge cap hit for bigger guys coming up here soon.
Shamus?
Yeah, I took another shitty Boston defenseman, Jacob Zaboral, just a big mutant out there. To be honest, I look at a lot of the Boston guys, and a lot of them are UFAs. So, you might take one, and they might say, "Okay, I'm peacing." So, yeah, I just had to take a guy who could be deeper in the lineup, but same time, he still hasn't proven. He hasn't played a whole lot in the NHL yet, so you got to give him a little bit more of a chance.
Yeah. That's kind of all their defensemen that are available. They're all kind of in that same lot. Casey, who did you select?
I went with I had a hard time picking for Boston as well, but I ended up going with defenseman Connor Clifton. He's a 26-year-old defenseman. He's got 2 years left on his contract at $1 million per year. So I went with him as my pick, and I think that he can be a good piece if he can get in the lineup. I have some depth here, so it'd be interesting to see if he can crack the lineup.
Yeah, we've all three of you taken defensemen so far, and for Boston, I think it could be a blessing in disguise because it's one less guy on their roster, and it kind of frees up cap room regardless for them to go out there and get an upgrade this offseason. Me and Dawson must share a brain because I also took Jeremy Lauzon. I like him more than Zaboral, and Clifton gets on my nerves. He reminds me too much of the defensemen that I really don't enjoy, like an Erik Karlsson or, just defensemen that make a lot of mistakes and their defensive game isn't strong. So I didn't take Clifton. I like Lauzon just because it's not. I think Lauzon's more of a safe guy. I Clifton would worry me, and I'd rather have a top-notch defenseman than a Clifton who reminds me a little bit of Brett Kulak in the late in the Stanley Cup final, who kept making really bad reads and getting burnt against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Jeremy Lauzon was my selection following Dawson's lead so far.
I think Boston's got to I think they're just going to come out right because they have enough UFAs that as soon as the draft or I guess the pickings are done by Seattle, they can just go in there and sign all those guys again. Right. Where Seattle's going to hesitate to sign a guy that might just walk out on them if he's not comfortable walking into an expansion, knowing that they might not be very good next year, right?
Right. Yeah. Did you guys select any unrestricted free agents?
I don't think I picked one. I have a couple RFAs, but no UFAs.
Yeah, I don't think I did either. I got one.
4, I mean.
I think I have a couple as well.
Yeah, it's a gamble, but again, at the same time, they have more cap space than anybody right now. So you do have that, negotiating window to see what you can do. And maybe you can sell that you're not going to be terrible. Vegas, nobody had them being a good team. They got to the Stanley Cup final. So I'm not saying Seattle's going to do that, but I think they can be competitive. We'll see what kind of product they put on the ice come October. That brings us to the Buffalo Sabres. Wow. When I knew Buffalo was bad, and then I looked at this player availability and I said, good God, who am I going to pick? But Dawson, who did you take from this laundry list of just elite talent?
This one was really, really tough. They're not offering up anything at all. My first thought was potentially Cody Eakin. He's a good, he did all right center-wise and then kind of went down in the dumps for Buffalo. But then I realized what kind of cap hit he was going to take. And 2.2 was just way too much for him to be scooping up. So I went with someone I don't really even know that much. Will Borgen. He's a young defenseman. Shows a little bit of potential, but I really don't know much of his game just because everyone else did not look okay. Like imagine having Jeff Skinner.
Yeah, no,
I mean, doesn't even pique my interest at all. 9 million cap.
And the thing is, even if you wanted to say, Buffalo's like, please take Jeff Skinner, they have nothing to sweeten the deal that would really even be that interesting. You have to take Skinner and Eichel. So they're 19 million against your cap right on day one. That's a scary thought. Shamus, who did you take from Buffalo?
Well, Dawson just kind of shit on him, which is always great. But I did take Cody Eakin. Because they're going to have so much cap space. I'm like 2.2 for 1 year is not going to kill them. Good third line center, kills penalties. You think about when he got selected by Vegas, he had the best year of his career. So maybe that fresh coat of paint on him just kind of, just rejuvenates him and kind of makes him back to that 40, 50 point guy again. Probably not, but if he can be out there, be his ginger self and just kill penalties, I'll be happy for him.
Yeah, no, he did have the best year of his career in Vegas and got that contract off that really good year. So maybe he'll be motivated in another contract year to kind of show out, so he's not potentially out of the league in a matter of months. Casey, who did you take from Buffalo?
Well, this was really tough, and I didn't really even see a player worth picking from Buffalo. But, I ended up taking, this is off the board, I ended up going with goaltender Dustin Tokarski. Went with him simply because he's making league minimum, and he's only got a year left, and after that, you can just get rid of him. He's definitely the elder statesman in my goaltending lineup, so I don't really see him being a factor because he plays for Buffalo. He's not really relevant, and that's what I think. Buffalo sucks, so it's tough to pick a player from a team that's always in the bottom of the league.
Apologize to all those Buffalo fans out there. Really just getting lit up on this podcast.
You really sugarcoat that one, Case.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't walk around it too lightly.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, Case. I also selected Dustin Tokarski. I I saw Cody Eakin. I saw a couple guys where I'm like, but he's the lesser of 20 evils here. Where he actually didn't play that bad in the games he played in last year. Now, do I expect him to be an NHL goaltender? No, but he's just a guy you select, league min, chuck him in your HL team, good starter down there, and you move on. And maybe a team liked him last year and you get a pick for him. Maybe that's your best case scenario. It's another goalie that you stockpile that a team might want when it comes sooner to the start of the season. So nothing real spectacular there from the Buffalo Sabres, but pivoting to the Calgary Flames, a team who really had high expectations last year and it did not go well for them. Missing the playoffs, an ugly season for them, some COVID problems. They had to play Vancouver, seemed like 20 times in the last 21 days of the season. But they leave some interesting names available for Seattle. Dawson, who did you take from the Calgary Flames?
So this is going to be one of my first big signings. Going to go on the back end with good old Gio, bringing that leadership. I was kind of surprised, kind of not surprised, kind of a little bit surprised that Calgary left them off their initial roster. What is it, cap hit of 6.7, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to jump in and senior role. Maybe wear the C if they decide to distribute the C in the first year, and kind of show the young guys that they're not a team to mess around with. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, great leader, one of the best in the game. You hear from people that he's just a class act, and tough year for him, but I still think he's got some game left for sure. Shay, who did you take from Calgary?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off Dawson there. I definitely think Giordano's got to be the guy for this one because solely on what you said, just straight leadership. He's a warrior too, undrafted, and he's won the Norris at 35. So he's clearly still got something left in the tank, maybe. But, you're giving him the cash, but it's solely on the fact that he's going to help lead your team, and he's going to, I think bring guys together, new guys, new faces, and I think he's going to be one of those leaders that actually, takes the time out of his day to see how people are doing, and rally around group events, stuff like that. And you need those personalities. I think that Vegas, with them, they had a lot of those. The Derek England's, maybe guy we mentioned, Cody Eakin. He seems like a personality, so you need a few of those on the squad as well.
Yeah, I think that's totally. You look at a guy like England in Vegas, like you said, he was big, and I like what he brought to the table. Casey, who do you got from the Calgary Flames?
I, much like Shamus, almost picked Giordano. I decided to go a little bit younger though. I went with Oliver. Don't murder me in the comments if I get his last name wrong. Killington or Shillington?
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Yeah, I picked him. He's an RFA, but I think it's possible that we could get him signed. So we got a little bit of cap room to work with. So I think that's definitely within the possibilities.
Yeah, he's definitely got some offensive upside, and he is younger. So be interested to see if you take some bigger contracts here down the road, because you've been awful cheap so far, Case. But we'll see. We'll see where you go.
He's saving up.
Yeah, yeah. I'll take Giordano as well. I just think he's sitting there, and I think it's very hard to sell to your team that you did not take him when he's available. Is he Norris Gio? No, but he's the best. I think he's the best player available for Calgary, and I wouldn't want my players to come in and say, well, why is he not here? So, and he could wear the C. He's a good leader. So Mark Giordano, big cap hit, but 1 year, maybe you can offload it at the deadline if things aren't going well in year one. So Carolina, interesting. Another team that's been right on the periphery of being a Stanley Cup contender the last number of years, winning some rounds, re-signing their head coach. Dougie Hamilton looks like he's going to be on the move, looking for big money, but they still have a very good team. Dawson, Carolina Hurricanes. Who are you taking from that roster?
Well, there was a little more choice on this roster rather than Buffalo's, but there's a couple that crossed my mind. I ended up going with Niederreiter, though.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of my choices. He's going to fit in as a top 9, or I guess top 3 lines, and come in and be able to provide some offense. And he's got some experience in the league, and he's been playing well in Carolina, I've found. Just not enough room for him to stay.
Yeah, no, a really great year last year in Carolina. Him and Trocheck and Cedric Paquette, a lot of guys kind of had bounce back years. So Carolina's been a great place for that. Shay, how about you?
Oh, I want to take my boy Jake Gardiner, just an all-time Leaf legend. Probably the biggest choke job I've ever seen. Loves Game 7s, I heard.
What about James Reimer?
I don't know. They're a toss-up, the two of them. But no, I was much like Dawson. I wanted to take Nino, but I actually went with a little different pick. I went with the younger guy, Morgan Geekie.
Mm-hmm.
Centerman, he's an RFA after the end of next year. But he's, I think he's got a lot of offensive talent, but it's the same thing with my pick with Anaheim, the Volkov one. Just maybe has never gotten the chance where, there's a lot of great depth on Carolina. So I figured he'd get in a spot like this. And he's a guy, I'm, kind of hoping sprouts like how Vegas sprouted some of those guys that they just picked coming out of nowhere. The William Karlssons, the Marchessaults, like those guys, essentially they were known, but they weren't all-stars yet. So
right.
I'm hoping Geekie, maybe even if he's not proven next year, maybe in a few years he can become that 3rd, 4th line offensive guy that he's supposed to be.
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot too. Obviously, 4th line center role in Carolina's tough for a skilled forward. Kind of need a look, and I think you could definitely get that in Seattle over Carolina. It's a really deep and pretty stacked team at this point. Casey, who are you taking from Carolina?
So I was criticized earlier for being a little stingy on the cash. So this is why I'm saving a little bit. I want to get this guy locked up a little bit long term.
Okay.
So I went with Dougie Hamilton.
Ooh.
I'm going to try and get him signed up for probably 3 or 4 years, get him a home, probably, get him somewhere nice. And I think he could be in your top 3 for sure. So that's what I'm thinking for my lineup. He's definitely the standalone offensive defenseman, I would say.
Okay. What kind of cash you throwing at him, Casey?
Yeah.
Probably give him 4 or 5 a year.
Holy, he's not signing with you. He's gonna walk. You're gonna sign a guy to walk.
Oh, geez, boys, I'm gonna buy his house right out of my pocket here. I gotta get some kind of discount.
He walked from Carolina at 7.
Oh, geez. Well, that would have been nice to know before. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good luck with that negotiation.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's the best player that you could take from their team. No debate there. I mean, the guy's a number 1 defenseman, and I don't care if people think he's weird that he goes to museums or whatever they complain about. The guy can freaking play hockey. I also went with Shamus. I went with Morgan Geekie. Niederreiter was intriguing, but I don't trust him. I seen too much Minnesota Islanders that he's just, he's just a guy, too inconsistent for me with that potential number. And Geekie's got some potential upside that I kind of know what Niederreiter is. Geekie still a little bit of an unknown, and maybe he can be the next Bill Karlsson that the Vegas Golden Knights had. Chicago, in a lot of hot water right now due to that unfortunate story about their video coach and everything going on there, which is just terrible. And really, I don't know how that happens in life, let alone professional sports. But they traded Duncan Keith. They got some interesting players. But Dawson, who did you take from the Chicago Blackhawks?
So far I've been heavy in the back end, and I'm still gonna go with another defenseman. I picked Kelvin DeHaan. He's always been a steady defenseman, not a shine out guy. Like, you don't really see him when he's playing, but he's doing a good job always making that first pass, and he'd be a good guy to have in the back end. He's a little expensive, probably a 4.5, but I think he'd be a good fit in.
Yeah. He's had a solid career, going from Long Island to Chicago, and being a solid guy for the last number of years. Shamus, who'd you take from Chicago?
I might get laughed out of this Zoom call, but I took Ryan Carpenter. Just didn't want to take a defenseman. I like Zadorov, but I think I don't love him enough to get him over the other guys I have on this list. So I just straight up just took a dud. Ryan Carpenter, great fourth liner. Yeah, kill
good waiver claim.
Good waiver wire. Yeah, great guy. Good in the room.
No, he's played in their fourth line the last number of years, kind of in and out, him and Highmore and Gaudette. So I'm sure they'd miss him. Casey, who did you select?
Well, for the Blackhawks, I went with a forward. I went with Vinny Hinostroza. I think he's a good piece. He's got a sign though, so we're looking at probably $1.5 million per year. So lock him up for 2 years or so. Keep him in that lineup. I think he's pretty fast. I think he can be pretty effective forward for my lineup. So that's who I picked.
See, that's a fair contract.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's a good negotiation.
The more I think about it, I think I would have to offer Hamilton about 9.5.
Yeah,
I just looked at my thing too, and I got the money to do it, so I can.
Yeah, you're so cheap. Like, come on, you got to spend some money. You got to get to the floor.
Yeah, yeah. Don't worry, we're loaded up at the back end here, boys.
Okay, okay. Shay mentioned this guy. I like the Hinostroza one. He's crafty little forward. But I went with Nikita Zadorov. I love his build. I like that he's a Mack truck on the ice. He hits anything that moves. Defensively, I think he's pretty solid. Not the fastest guy in the world, but again, he's like your Derek England, where he's there to finish checks. He's there to create some energy on nights where you're not playing your best, because he throws a big hit in the middle of the ice. And he will play penalty kill, things of that nature. So I just like him for that physical role and just be a shutdown guy for Seattle. Colorado, interesting potential options here, because you got Landeskog as unrestricted free agent. You got Grubauer as an unrestricted free agent. They got a number of really good forwards as well sitting there. They just traded Ryan Graves. So this team that look like they're going to be cup contenders for a while are kind of in a state of flux right now, and we'll see where they go. But Dawson, Colorado Avalanche, who are you selecting?
Well, I went off the wall for this one. I took a complete shit disturber. UFA, hopefully signed for cheap. I took Max Calvert Calvert.
Matt?
What?
Matt?
Did I say Max? I meant Matt.
You said Max, yes. I thought you said Max Talbot at first. I said, is that guy still playing?
It's I'm in the league. No, Calvert.
Okay.
Sign him cheap and keep him for a complete shit disturber.
Okay. Interesting. Did not see that one coming. I can honestly say that. Shamus, I'm sure you followed suit.
Oh yeah, I took Matt Calvert because he's just so talented. No, I took a guy who can actually put the puck in the net. He's got a great contract right now. I'm sure you guys probably disagree, but Jonas Donskoy, just a gamer. This guy shows up in big moments. I often think about that run to San Jose with the Sharks. He scored a lot of big goals. He can easily put in 10, 15 goals a season, and that's consistent every year he's been in the league. Probably more of a depth scorer, third line guy, but he's been great for Colorado since he's been there. And yeah, I think he'd be a great guy to sign on with this team. I think he'd like the build. Yeah,
he's a really good player. I like him as well. and he's a gamer in the playoffs. He shows up when you really need him the most, other than last year. But he was good for San Jose. Casey, Colorado, where you headed?
Well, much like my good pal Shamus, I went with Jonas Donskoy as well, based on playoff success with Colorado, but with San Jose. I think he can really bring it when you need it. So that's who I went with, and he's under contract for a few years, so don't have to worry about him signing.
Yeah, he's a really good player. He was number 2 on my list. These two are real close, and I kind of fluctuated. I went with JT Compher. I think him and Donskoy are similar, but I just like Compher a little bit because he can play the middle, and he's a little bit bigger than Donskoy. Donskoy can kind of get beaten up a little bit. I like Compher just because he's got that chippiness to his game. He's not afraid to get in the middle of the ice, and he can score goals too. He's another guy that can go 10 to 15 a year, be a good third line center for the Seattle next year. And whether you select Compher, Donskoy, or Calvert, I think you're in a really good position if you're Seattle.
I got a question for you guys. Valery Nichushkin, he was protected over, Compher, Compher, Donskoy, and for Dawson, Calvert. What were your thoughts on that? Do you think Nichushkin's more, valuable, I guess, if you're the GM?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting because he's kind of on his second tour of duty because he kind of bounced around there for a while. He is playing good hockey, but maybe they look at it and say he's a power forward, and they really don't have that many of them. I mean, Landeskog, you might lose him. He's a power forward-ish, but you look at Compher, Donskoy, they're kind of more in that skilled forward range, and kind of Nichushkin brings something a little different to the table than their other members of the forward group. Yeah. I think I don't think Seattle would have taken him. But that's maybe if he was there, but I found that one surprising too, that he was so highly regarded. Columbus. Another team that's really, they're in a spot here. Seth Jones looks like he wants out. Zach Werenski may want out. They just got a new coach. Things aren't going real well in Columbus, and just to make matters worse, they're going to lose a player. So Dawson, who are you taking from the roster?
I picked Domi right off the bat. No one else really kind of strike my interest on that. I thought about maybe Harrington, but still I got DeHaan that I picked that's kind of similar in that style. But I feel like Domi's got a little bit of spark in his play, and he did all right when he started in Montreal and then kind of tapered off, and it really didn't really jive in Columbus. I don't know if it's just the atmosphere there, Torch being too hard on him, or what the scoop is, but I feel like if he goes as a new start, he could be a new player and bring a lot of energy and be able to kind of take another step up in his game.
Yeah, obviously he needs to hit this year, or his career's in real jeopardy because he's had a number of bad years and his attitude hasn't been all that great either. So he's got some X's on him for sure. Shay, who did you select?
Yeah, I really thought about taking Domi as well. I kind of debated on, like you said, the attitude problem. But when it came down to it, I just wanted to, someone who we really don't know a lot about, but I think has some potential in the game. That's Kevin Stanlund, the Swede. I think he's not a great skater, obviously, but I think he's got some silky mitts. So I can see him maybe popping off, if not next year, maybe the year after even. He just hasn't got a whole lot of NHL experience yet. So give him that. And who knows, he can be a depth scoring guy and on a bad team, or maybe, maybe he pops off and becomes like a 40, 50 point winger later down the road.
Right. Yeah, no, when he gets an opportunity, he does play well. Towards likes to fluctuate his bottom of the lineup, which can make it tough on guys. And be nice to see him get a real opportunity somewhere other than Columbus too. Yeah. Casey, Columbus Blue Jackets.
This was a tough roster to look through. With my cap availability, I was able to sign Max Domi. So, life is great for me. We're good.
Yeah, when you're cheap as hell, it's good. It's a good thing. To nobody's surprise here, I also took Max. I have a soft spot for the guy. I like his fire. I like his passion for the game. And I really hope he can turn it around, because obviously he was traded for another one of my boys, the unicorn, Josh Anderson. So it's a tough deal because I love them both, but I want him to turn it around because he needs to. If he's going to really be a factor and a meaningful guy in this league that's not potentially AHL bound in the not too distant future, potentially even out of North America. So I'll take Max and hope for the best, and hopefully that he can have a bounce back year in a brand new market. Dallas Stars, another interesting team where they're kind of made it to a cup final, 2 years ago. They've had some injury woes last year. So what are they? They exposed Ben Bishop, who was out all of last year. They still have some good pieces, but Dawson, Dallas Stars, who's coming over from that roster?
Well, I'm still uploading on the backside. I picked Julius Honka. I've always liked the way he played. I know he had a couple down years and has been playing well, but he's a smooth skater. I think he's Finnish, isn't he?
Yeah.
I like the way he played in the World Juniors and the first couple of leagues. I think there's some potential he's seen it, but there's a lot of overcrowding, especially with Heiskanen and Klingberg. Could be a potential to come in and step in as not a prominent D-man, but a guy that you can rely on in the back end. Plus, it's pretty cheap as well.
Very, very true.
We're all about saving dollars on this podcast and this roundtable. If you guys haven't heard, we love to save money. So.
Yeah.
You should be working for the Leafs, for God's sake. Jesus.
They could use Casey's expertise, really.
Assistant General Manager Casey Ward.
Yeah.
Shay, Dallas Stars.
I took the big guy. I took Ben Bishop. Obviously, I know it's a little risky, but at the same breath, I take him being trade bait. I don't even see him envisioning wearing a jersey. You're going to come to a point halfway through the year where someone may need a goalie, and you may get a third, fourth rounder for him. So as I look at the lineup, there's some other guys I like as well that I didn't see before, but I'm going to stick with this one just in the fact that you might get something for him down the road, and it's free to grab him. So that's who I'm going with. Yeah,
when he's playing, he's great. It's just his injuries, and he's always seems to be hurt at suspicious times, if you ask me. But that playoff run didn't play much, which was poor timing. Casey, who do you like from Dallas?
Well, with the Dallas Stars, I looked at their lineup and I said, you know what, I need some meat on my lineup. I need some meat in the back end. So I went with Jamie Alexiak. You got to sign him. You got to work out a negotiation. But I got that in the back pocket, boys. We got some room and we can maneuver. So yeah, I gotta hear this average. What are you paying him? Hamilton $4 million. I mean, this guy must be drafted. Well, we're only going to sign him, a couple of years. He's only 28, so we got to I give him till he's 32. That's when he starts to slow down. I give him 4 years at about 2.3. So yeah, that's where I would probably chuck him. What do you guys think of that? You don't pay guys at all. Guys are not going to want to sign with you.
It's just like the ration check week, man.
Jeez, guys, I got some big ballers down the lineup.
I can't wait to hear about like Chris Drieger and Brendan Lemieux. But no, I like it. I thought about Alexiak too. Wishes sister well as she competes in the Olympics in about 5 days. Bring home some gold medals, Penny. But I took Blake Como, good veteran. 1 year, $1 million. Casey would like that. Good a veterans minimum contract. And he's been in a lot of deep playoff runs with Nashville, with Dallas, and he's got that experience. He's got some bite, and I like him. But it was either him or Alexiak for me as well, Case. I think Jamie's really improved his game since returning from Pittsburgh and winning that cup. It's really really helped his career.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. He's I think he plays the game pretty hard, so I think that's why I had him in my lineup.
Yeah. Detroit. They're slowly getting better. But after 22 years of making the playoffs, they deserve all the time that they want, because that's impressive, because as we know, it takes a long time to win a playoff series sometimes. Don't know who I'm really referring to there, but I'll just keep that one out there. I could be talking about the Cleveland Browns or anybody really.
Okay.
Jeez.
I know where this is going. Thank you.
But we'll move on. Dawson, Detroit, are you sticking with your back end, or are you moving elsewhere?
I really wanted to pick a defenseman. One really caught my eye, but I'm still running the discount trade on the forwards, and I pitched Evgeny Svechnikov.
Interesting.
I feel like he has some skill and just hasn't been able to pop in Detroit. I don't know if that's just a lack of confidence. I know he was injured there for a little bit, but maybe it was his brother overshadowing and just ripping up the league in his first couple of years. Who knows? But I hope if he goes over to Seattle, he might be able to step in his own groove and maybe get a new room with maybe a little bit of chemistry and keep it under $1 million for a cap.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he might make $700,000 at the NHL level anyway. Shamus, Detroit.
Yeah, no, I just want to say that was a ballsy pick, Dawson, but good for you. I took Dennis Cholowski.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
The defenseman, he's an RFA, but I think you'll be able to re-sign him, no problem. As you see Detroit's defensemen in the back end start to build, you see Mort Seider, Jared McIsaac, Phil Peronic. Those guys are all kind of on their way, and Cholowski's going to get thrown aside, I think, either way. So you take a guy like that, maybe give him a little AHL time, but I think he still has potential to be a regular in any lineup if he still improves.
Yeah, no, I like that one because he's all potential. You see guys and you kind of know their ceiling. So he's definitely a guy that has more upside than even the player I took. Casey, how about you?
Well, I looked at this one and I said, am I going to take Jonathan Bernier? Am I going to spend a little bit of cash? I said, no. I said, are we gonna save cash and we're going to go with Sam Gagner? Probably not either. So in the middle, I went with defenseman Troy Stetcher.
Yes.
So 1.7 for next 2 years. That's pretty good for me. That's right where I want him. So that's just perfect for me. I think he has a little bit to offer.
I almost picked him, but I already have 16.
Yeah.
Cap.
Yeah, Dawson's got more defensemen than the Toronto Maple Leafs farm system. It's quite impressive. I also like Troy Stetcher. I thought a lot about taking him, but I decided against it, and I thought, what can I do crazy on this podcast but take Johnny Burns? Jonathan Bernier. He's coming in, and if we don't sign him, which I think Seattle will have a good chance of doing it, but you could sign him or do a sign and trade, which would be interesting because teams are going to want Jonathan Bernier. Is he a great goaltender? No, but there's not that many number one goaltenders anymore. You need a tandem, and he's a guy that can work in a tandem for a cheap money for Casey's under $2.5 million for sure. And I think he's played really well in a really bad situation over the last couple of years. I give him credit. Went through that whole Toronto massacre, the whole Nelson Mandela interview, if you remember that. And he's found his game, and I give him credit for that. So I'll take Johnny Burns and hope to flip him.
It's a good idea.
But yeah, if nobody's heard about the Nelson Mandela interview, go back and listen to that one. Mandela was deceased at the time, and he said that Jonathan Bernier said he met him the week before, and he's a really nice guy. So really, really funny interview, and it's an all-timer. Edmonton Oilers, Casey's old stomping grounds. As a young boy, he loved them. I don't now he's kind of switching to Vancouver. We've had our debates about Vancouver this year, as I kind of told him they missed the playoffs, and he fought with me for a while until the COVID bug just wore him down. But Edmonton, Dawson, who do you like from this team? Who are you taking to Seattle?
I didn't really like much people on this team, to be honest with you.
No,
I thought about Tyson Barrie, but he is just way too much money for what his output is. Same with, I thought about Clefbaum, but his injury really turns me off. I think he would have been protected if his injury weren't going to keep him out for a year.
Yeah.
And it's still loaded on the back end, so it's kind of forced to take forward. First one was James Neal that cost my name, but then I realized that it was all downhill from 2 years ago. So I ended up with Dominic Cahoon.
Yeah.
Young guy. Speedy, able to move the puck. Did all right last year, but I think I don't know, it's hard to prosper in Edmonton. Might change his scenery and might do well.
Yeah, he's bounced around, but I do think he's got more game than he's shown so far. But yeah, Edmonton's tough because they're always switching lines. Sometimes he started a game with Draisaitl, and then Draisaitl moves up with McDavid, and it's a constant game of musical chairs, so that can make it tough on the wingers. Shay, who do you like from the Edmonton Oilers?
Yeah, I know he's injury prone, but I did end up taking Clefbaum only because if he doesn't play at all this year, fine. He signed until the year after, so you can only hope for that he makes a comeback and a speedy recovery. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I never would like to see a guy injured for that long. And it kind of feels like Edmonton and their fan base, KC, has given up on him. So if he comes back and plays with a new team, maybe that gives him a little bit of new life into his system, and maybe he can play well. Who knows? Because in his prime, he can be a top 4 defenseman and on most teams, I believe. So we'll see. I didn't love any of the forwards, but I will say Dominic Cahoon would have probably been the guy I would have chosen if there was one there.
Yeah, poor Clefbaum. I mean, you see some guys like Weber or Clefbaum, like their careers might be over. Like they're saying he could be done here. So yeah, I hate seeing that as well. I hope he can find a way to come back. Casey, your old team, Edmonton Oilers. You got to take a guy from this team. Who's Ron Francis, aka Casey Ward, taking with him to Seattle?
Even with the injury, I'm gonna have to go with Clefbaum.
Wow.
Still, yeah, I got that room. With my salary cap. So
hey, Casey's on the LTIR too, so I mean, it's not like it's gonna have cap ground is gonna be fine.
Wash him for a year, exactly. So we're golden. So I took him. I hope that he comes back. Like Shamus said, you hope that guys aren't out too long and find a way to make it back in. So that's who I'm taking.
Yeah, I thought about him, but again, the fear of the long-term injury pushed me away. I went with Dominic Cahoon. Again, I didn't love many of the forwards. I didn't love this team who was available. Nobody really intrigued me. But I almost took a goaltender just for fun, but I decided to go with Cahoon and play it safe a little bit, and hopefully he finds something. And he's cost certainty, and you can easily get rid of him if need be. Florida Panthers. Obviously, it's kind of it sounds like Chris Driedger is going to Seattle, but they could be interesting and just sign him as a UFA and then make another selection, which is what I would do. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what they'll do. They might want to do that to get it settled. But Dawson, Florida, who are you taking with you to Seattle?
This one, there's a couple better options than the previous one. I did like the Driedger option. There's another couple guys, Montour kind of piqued my eye, but I ended up going with Carey myself. Kind of a gritty forward. From his presence in Boston, he's not afraid to throw around his weight, small guy, and even for being a small guy, and he's able to put out in the playoffs, and that's what I ended up going with.
Yeah, I like his intangibles for sure, and he's had some really good years and then a porous last year in Florida. That's mostly due to injury and their team really getting a lot better quickly. So he didn't have a lot of opportunity. Shay, Florida Panthers pick for you.
Yeah, I took a guy a couple lines higher. I took Frankie Vetrano. Good Boston kid. He's a goal scorer, so I think if he can give you 20 goals at 2.5 million, I think it's well worth it. Signed until next year, and he's one of these guys. Like if you probably put high enough in the lineup, I could easily see him getting 30 with the right centerman dishing him the puck. Who I'll get to a little bit later in this pod.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Florida, how they got fleeced last time. It wouldn't shock me if another Florida player goes on to have a great career
Really,
with the expansion team. Marchessault, Riley Smith. I mean, that was the biggest fleece, I think, of the whole thing. Way to go. Casey, Florida Panthers.
Well, I went with goaltender. I went with Chris Drieger. That's who I ended up going with. Yeah, we're gonna sign him and possibly ship him, or I don't know.
Win the
I
cup.
think last year was a good showing for him in Florida. So I think he's a piece that we could work with going forward.
Yeah, I also went with Drieger. What's interesting to me though is he got signed for 3.5. 3.5 is a lot of money to pay a backup goalie. So it does scream to me that they're gonna have a tandem and not a bona fide starter. It goes against kind of what I did, but it's interesting to me anyway that he got. I think he deserves that money. I think he's played really well over the last couple of years. But looking at the foundation, how they're planning on building a team, 3.5, and then like it's hard to do $6-7 million for your goaltending, or even more than that, year over year. So I'm interested to see what they decide to do alongside Drieger.
Yeah, I was surprised that there was been no way that Florida was going to bring Drieger back if they weren't willing to protect him over Bob, who, I mean, Seattle's not going to take Bob, so I don't see why they would have protect Drieger unless they had no intentions of signing him back, right?
I don't think, because they had Spencer Knight coming, and they got goalie Bob, so having 3 goalies at the NHL level probably just wasn't going to happen, and it's tough to pay your goaltending $15 million of an $80 million cap.
Fair.
Montreal did it, but we'll see, how that moves on. Vegas did it, so a couple teams did it successfully, but you also need some really good players in the mix as well. That moves us on to the LA Kings. They are kind of in a state of transition, looking to get better on the fly, but they still have a young team waiting for guys to develop. Dawson, who you like from the LA Kings?
I think we probably all chose roughly the same player for this one, but I chose Lemieux for this one. Tough son of a bitch. Plays the game hard, and he's gonna bring the grit into the game. Also has a little bit of skill as well. I was kind of surprised he got traded from the Rangers to the Kings initially, but another guy that caught my eye was Andreas, but there's a little bit of attitude issues, and it's always found as a bit overhyped than what he actually is. So.
Yeah, Lemieux, he's got a lot of that piss and vinegar. He's not afraid of anybody, and I do like the cut of his jib a lot when it comes to how he plays, because he's a guy who's not afraid to throw it around. Shamus, who did you take from LA?
Yeah, I almost took another goalie. I was going to take Quick only because he'd be same as we talked about earlier with Bishop. Take him on and then trade him away, get something for him. But no, I ended up switching my mind, and I went with same as Dawson. I took Lemieux, gritty fourth line left winger. He's like a little bowling ball out there, just gonna absolutely run everybody, and he's gonna bring a certain amount of toughness to his game as well. So, which is something they should probably establish right out of the gate. I think if they're a soft, full of talented wingers, then they're probably not gonna even sniff the playoffs. So,
right, Casey, you staying consistent?
Yeah, pretty consistent. Well, no, actually, I went a little bit higher price this one. I went had a little bit more room, so I went with Oli Mata. I think he played maybe his best hockey in Pittsburgh while he was there, but I don't know. I think if you give him a chance in the expansion, on the new expansion team, and have a market where he can kind of just come in and play his game and not have to worry, he might be better than some of the other picks that I had.
Yeah, he's definitely got experience. That's one good thing about him, and he's played in a couple different locations when it comes to winning, and also kind of going through a rebuild, so he knows it all. So that's a good intangible to have for sure. I went with the first two gentlemen. I picked Brendan Lemieux. I like the guy. He's my kind of guy. He's not afraid to throw it around, and he likes to get on the bench, chirp some, look over at the other bench, give them a little piece of their mind. And I kind of hope he doesn't go to Seattle and stays in LA, because the LA San Jose rivalry is always great. And I think if he's there, you have a guy like Curtis Gabriel in San Jose, that could be a lot of fun in the next couple of years.
I agree. He's a
But
great
again,
person.
Seattle, Vancouver could be fun too.
Oh, yeah. Fair.
Minnesota, the buyout central team of Suter and Parise, they freed up $10 million in cap room to spend this offseason. They had a great year, surprising a lot of people, pushing Vegas to 7 games. But now they're going to lose a player. Dawson, who is being stripped from the Minnesota Wild roster to Seattle.
So I picked my first goalie coming up. Don't hate on me if I get this name wrong. Capo Kakinen.
Yep, there you go.
Close. There we go. Yep. He's a young goalie. Played really well when he played in the World Juniors. I didn't really showcase his talents just yet, but I feel like there's a lot of potential for him coming up in the side.
Yeah, when he played last year, him and Talbot till the playoffs were really back and forth, and he was a really surprisingly good netminder. A good pick for sure. Shay, who did you select?
Yeah, I said the same thing. I was shocked to see that Billy G didn't protect this guy, especially over Talbot, he's a steady goaltender, but he's definitely not, I would say, solid, where this guy still has a lot of upside. 2 years from now, I can see Capo being a great starting goaltender. Mm-hmm. So it's a little shocked to see this, but obviously there's maybe something else in the works with goaltender. He's trying to sign somewhere else. So yeah, that's same thing. Like you said, when he played last year, he was solid. And if he doesn't start next year, I think in the future, if you could sign him on a longer term deal, he could be your potential starting goaltender for years to come.
Yeah, really real good Finnish kid, and he looks like he's going to be really good. Case, who'd you select?
Yep. Well, I also went with the goaltender. I went with Capo Kakinen as well. I went that route. I think with my lineup, other than Tokarski, I have Drieger and Capo. So I have 2 dogs that I can kind of get in that race for the 1-2 spot. So that's where I have my pick with the Wild.
Yeah, clean sweep. Kakinen, another goalie, potentially a good tandem with Drieger. If that's the way you want to go, the way it looks like they're going to sign him, you could flip him, get a good return for him as well, potentially get a roster player right away. And like I said, collect goalies and trade them off. And then you got more assets coming in, could be draft picks, could be what have you. So, real interesting there. That brings us to Montreal. And one of the more interesting teams on the board where they did not protect one of their best players in franchise history, Carey Price. Interesting strategical move. They want to keep Jake Allen. I somewhat get it. But they obviously one of the best, still think the second best goalie in the world right now. And he's signed long-term, but again, he just was making $10.5 million. He was winning playoff series, the first $10 million player to do so. Dawson, did you go with the big shiny name, or did you go elsewhere for the Montreal Canadiens?
This is where I saved my money, Jug. I went to the big shiny name. I find it hard not to spend the money on arguably the best goalie in this era. especially under this contract that he's not going to be a UFA. Especially you can see he went to Stanley Cup Finals and didn't luck out this year, but he's still, people say he's deteriorating, but I mean, he pretty much took Montreal to that finals. It's a hard one to pass up for sure, but that's what I walked into.
Yeah. I'm just see of the four of us, how many select them. Shamus, are you taking Price or are you going elsewhere?
I could have told you at the beginning that Bergeron was going to let Price on here because no way in hell I would ever take him. Great goaltender, but at 33, his regular seasons are just not what they used to be. And I think you're going to have somewhat of a good regular season if you're not going to have the stellar team that you would. I'm not saying Montreal's a stellar team, but they just snuck in. Thank you, the bubble, the Canadian bubble, I should say. But no, I'm not taking him. I'm going to take this one could be off the wall, and again, it could be left off this pod. I'm going to take Jonathan Drouin.
God.
Who I think needs a change. Not being protected basically just shows me that Montreal's done with him. You know, they either think he's shitty enough that he won't be selected, or they just don't have, you know, they just don't want him there. So I think he needs a change, and you know, he'd be a good middle six winger playing there. He can zip it around pretty nicely. So I'm gonna take him. I know he hits at 5.5, but still, I think that's my roster right now has been pretty cheap, so I can afford to take on a bum if he turns out to be one.
Yeah, I hope he's doing okay with his personal reasons. I hope he's getting those attended to. But yeah, he's obviously got all the skill in the world, but he just doesn't seem like he's got the heart, and that worries me. Casey, are you spending the big money or are you staying on the cheaper side, which has been your strategy so far?
I can tell you right now what he's going to say.
What?
I saved all my money for Carey Price.
No, I didn't. I did not save my money for Carey Price.
Shit.
Yeah, this one stung. You know, I hate to take a player off the Canadians because I think they're just right. They're just right there after, you know, beating Shamus's Leafs in dramatic fashion. He also continued to root for the Canadians following the Leafs departure. So
that was something else there.
Yeah, he questions my loyalty on jumping fan bases, but he was quick to jump suit with me.
I just say the Canadian market, man. I had to help him out.
Yeah.
I had to cheer for the Canadian team.
You were 99.9% of the Leafs population.
Oh my God.
I went with Paul Byron. He's under contract for a few years. I'd say he's like one of the backbone players when it comes to Montreal. He's in there on the forecheck. He's great on the power play, or not power play.
Penalty kill.
Penalty kill. Mine went blank there for a second, but I think just his performance in the playoffs was good enough for me to pick him, and I think that's who I would go with.
Yeah, and I like Byron a lot. He went through waivers like 3 times this year, still found a way to keep playing. So I give him a ton of credit, not complaining about his situation. He's just a warrior. See, there's 2 thoughts right now. My head screams to me, do not take Carey Price because he's injury prone, because of his age, because he just had a big season. He could, I don't think he'll ever get to a cup final again. But then there's the other part of my head where I say, what did Vegas do with their first pick? They took a goaltender that was basically kicked out of Pittsburgh because he couldn't play anymore. Won a Vezina last year at the age of 37. They're still trying to get rid of him. Year after year, they keep kicking him while he's down. And he's also a great marketing tool, the flower. So I will select Carey Price because I think it's impossible not to, just based on marketing, just based on having a figurehead of your franchise. And I will take Carey Price. He's still the second best goalie in the world. It's not Jack Campbell. And I'll take Carey, and my head screams no, but my heart screams do it. And I think as ownership, I think Seattle will do it.
Good luck. Good luck to you and Dawson both. I hope your hearts follow you all the way to the bank.
Well, I mean, having a number one goalie is pretty important.
Fair. No, I'm not saying that. I just think that's I don't know. I just seen some inconsistencies, and there's too many red flags for me to hop on something like that. If his contract was another year or two, I would feel much more comfortable. But going to 2026 just seems like too much of a commitment, and it'd be a lot to unload.
Oh, my confidence meter with this is like a 20%, but I'm not real confident with it. But I just look at the marketing opportunity, and I think you have to do it if you're Seattle.
Yeah.
Nashville. They left a couple of juicy ones out there for people. They got Ryan Johansson, who's just been spectacular since being traded from Columbus. Dawson's boy, Matt Duchene, has been on a tear since he got his guitar and joined the Nashville Predators. They also got some younger guys on the board as well. But Dawson, are you going to take one of your old Flames and Matt Duchene?
I just want to go on the record said and haven't been more disappointed in the player than Matt Duchene. A lack of respect than going to Nashville and then not dominating.
Yeah, tough draw.
This guy, I chose someone that's familiar to this sort of thing. I chose Eric Halla. He older centerman, but he does have some skill, and he can kind of see some pizzazz, and he's been on highlights once or twice, and really discount of 1.7 makes room for some bigger signings in the future.
Yeah, no, really solid player, good depth guy. He's been in playoff scenarios, so I like Eric Hall a lot as well. Shay, who did you select?
Yeah, I went with another Swede. I went with Calle Järnkrok, kind of another consistent 10-15 goal guy that you'll find in your lineup. Even in Nashville, some of their worst years, they've still been, he's still been a contributor. He might only get you 30 points, but he's still got some skill to him. But yeah, he could also be trade bait too. I think he'd be a guy, if you didn't like him halfway through your year, you'd no problem unloading him to like a Edmonton or a Vancouver, someone who needs depth.
Case?
Those are both two pretty good picks. I thought about going with them, but kind of they were a little bit out of my price range, so I decided to go with Nick Cousins. 18 points this year, 40 PIMs. I think he plays the game the hard way. He gets in there on the forecheck, so we're gonna go with that. Save a couple bucks for a few of these teams down the line that got some better talent, I would say. Yeah,
no, it's on brand for you to save some money tonight. So I appreciate you sticking to your strategy. I love that. It's a good Monopoly player. I went with Shay. I went with Calle Järnkrok. He's hit or miss, but I'm not doing Nashville a favor by taking Johansson or Duchene. That's like you get a bridge, you build a bridge, and you stick a big dragon on top of it, and he starts lighting fire, right in the middle of it. So, not doing that. I'll take Järnkrok and move on and say Nashville didn't have much to offer. We go to 3 New York teams right in a row now. New Jersey Devils. Dawson, where are you looking at with New Jersey?
I'm looking at the goaltenders here, Jug. First PK kind of piqued my interest, but that cap hit for what he can kind of produce it's not there. Plus, I have enough D-man as it is already. So I ended up going with Scott Wedgwood. Didn't have the greatest year last year, but he still had a decent save percentage, just not a lot of wins. But I mean, New Jersey wasn't the greatest team going last year, so it's hard to represent that. Anyways, that'd be a good fill-in spot for him, and Kotkaniemi can kind of come in as that second goalie whenever Price wants to take a break.
Yeah.
Or wants to play all the games, who knows?
Right. Shay, New Jersey.
Yeah, I had to go back to the Leaf. A guy I can very much see in a Seattle jersey, Andreas Janssen. He gets a bad rep. He had a pretty rough year last year, I would say. But this is a guy who, he's got a ton of potential, ton of skill. He's fast as hell, and he may be able to play himself into this lineup if he gets the chance. So I think he just needs a change. He kind of got shafted by Toronto. I'm not even gonna lie, when they cap dumped him to New Jersey, which must have been like a slap in the face to him when he wasn't really, told that information. But yeah, you get him in there. He's been a 20-goal scorer before, so we could see if he could do that again. Maybe playing in a top 6 role.
Yeah, I also took Janssen just to piggyback off Shea. I liked him a little bit more than the other options. Case, where did you go?
Shamus has been waiting to hear this all podcast, but this is where I was saving my money for.
No way you're gonna say PK Subban.
No, I'm just joking, boys. I stayed on brand. I went the cheap route. I went with Connor Carrick. $1.5 million. I think we can get him signed. Get him signed as well. So he's a lot cheaper than the PK Subban cap hit. So that's the way I went.
Yeah, another former Leaf, so that'll excite Shamus as well. So 3 Leafs taken there. Good round there for old Shea. The Islanders, back-to-back conference finals, really good team. They just lost Nick Leddy. They had to lose Devon Toews last year because of salary cap and things like this. Dawson, are they losing one of their great players in the last decade?
No, I kind of went off the wall with the Islanders, Jug. I went with Bellows.
Good shot. Yeah.
Good young guy that really hasn't shown much of his talent just yet, but I feel like he's a big guy and at a decent price too. I feel like he can come in and make an impact with this new team.
Yeah, no, I like it. He's got a good shot, and he comes from a hockey family, so that bodes well for him. Shea, where did you go?
Yeah, no doubt. Got to take Bailey on this one.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's been a warrior since he's started wearing the orange and blue. So no doubt. I think he's probably one of the most sneaky underrated players in the league, because he can rack up 60, 70 points, on a good team.
Mm-hmm.
And before I say it well now, I'd probably give him the C if he got there. He just, he seems like a leader with that Islander team, and I think he'd bring that same atmosphere right over to Seattle. So him as a leader would make for a great team, and I think he still has a lot left in the tank, even at 31.
Yeah, I'll obviously like Casey, but this was the easiest pick for me of any team. I was taking Josh Bailey no matter what. Casey, is he out of your price range?
Yeah, he's a little up there for me. I thought about going with I thought about going with Jordan Arbolé. I thought about it, old ties, just seeing him go up, toe drag that guy backhand against the Flames opening night. It was just the greatest
12
thing.
years ago, or?
Yeah, I think it was about the same time when Matthew scored 4. But I don't know. I went with I went right out of left field, trying to save cash. I went with Sebastian Aho, the defenseman. So that's where my loyalties went. But
we're gonna we'll label that as the first worst pick of this expansion draft. Sorry, Casey, I can't let you get away with that one.
Hey, fringe player, could sign him if he has a good year. Could send him somewhere. You never know. It might be a filler piece. You might need one of those here and there.
You may get a bag of ice from him. You're right. So it may be there's some trade value in that one.
Get him some Russian gas. Get him for some Russian gas.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm surprised only 2 of us took Josh Bailey, because that was just such a slam dunk to me. But I forgot who I was dealing with in Casey Ward here. New York Rangers. Again, a team on the rise. Some interesting guys available. Dawson, where'd you go for the Rangers?
Only 2 guys really stood out to me. It was a decision between Blackwell and Goodrow.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going with the Stanley Cup vet, Barclay Goodrow, just coming over and bringing that experience coming into the squad, and it's a rugged player. need that kind of character on the team.
Yeah, if he becomes available, it's certainly, if he's not signed by then, it's certainly an interesting option, because he's a winner, and we know what he brings to the table already. So that's certainly an interesting option. Shay, who'd you like from the Rangers?
I was kind of on the same page with Dawson, but the fact that he's UFA this year scares me, because I think he can easily just say no and, maybe get traded and sign him. Sign with another team for much more than what he's going to be done. So I took a great locker room guy in D'Angelo, Anthony D'Angelo. I'm kidding. I took Julian Gauthier, big body, 6'4", great fourth liner. Not much to pick from here, so I just kind of took the safe guy.
I'm surprised they didn't pick Jack Johnson.
Oh yeah, talent just oozing out of that guy.
Casey should take him because he's really good at handling his money.
Yeah. Put the C on it.
Case, who did you take from your pile of $1 bills?
I really thought about giving D'Angelo a new home, a new place to try and, work out his kinks and get to be that great locker room presence. But I don't think he's a glue guy. I don't think he's that type of person. So
no,
he's not like some of the guys in this call. So I went with much like Shamus's selection. I went with Julian Gauthier. I think he brings some meat and potatoes on that fourth line for me. So that's where I went.
Yeah, I took one of the best stories from last year, and that was Colin Blackwell, coming over from Nashville as a waiver wire pickup to scoring, 25 plus goals last year, going to play for Team USA at the Worlds, having such a great year for the Rangers. It could be a one-hit wonder, but I'm willing to give him a chance. And I hope he can do it, because what a great story last year when him coming over and really becoming a top 6 forward for the Rangers for the majority of last season.
Yeah, his story is unbelievable. He's had to fight for every team and every lineup that he's made. So I agree. I would be surprised if that alone might give him some recognition and get on this team.
That brings us to when we get to teams that I know you guys are fans of. It's always all the more interesting. That brings us to the Ottawa Senators, Dawson Warman's favorite team. Can't pick Erik Karlsson, because that would definitely be the pick that would be the easiest one to get rid of if you were the Ottawa Senators right now. But they're an intriguing team. They are getting better. They got some really good glue guys. I think they got some really good young defensemen. They left their quote unquote number one goalie exposed, which was intriguing, in Matt Murray. But Dawson, who is leaving your roster?
On the table, if EK was there, I would have saved all the pennies for him. No doubt.
Yeah, I know.
I thought about taking Matt at the start, but I found he was too shaky and coming into Ottawa, and didn't really trust him. I was kind of surprised they put Joey Decord on out there too, because he's a good young player. There might be some potential back there, but who knows? They might have something fun in the background. I doubt it, but I ended up going with one of their top forwards, and he's been a consistent player throughout his whole career. I went with Dadonov, coming in from Florida, and then doing well with the Senators. I think he fit in well, and he's going to guarantee he gets you some points.
Yeah, he's been a solid player his whole career, and been good for Ottawa. So wasn't bad for Ottawa last year. So really solid guy who can score 20-25 goals. Shamus, who did you select?
Yeah, I almost took one of Ottawa's 20 goalies that they have, unprotected, because there's some wildly talented guys. But no, I took Chris Turney. At this point, when I was going through, I realized I was pretty shallow for centerman, and I think Turney, he can be a 40-point centerman. You may be able to throw him into your middle six, and at the same time, he's reliable at his own end. So yeah, I don't mind him at 3.5. I think for at least 1 year, he'll fill a gap that's probably needed in the middle of the ice.
Casey, 3.5. Dadonov makes a good chunk of change. This might be a little too rich for you. Where did you go?
I thought about signing Derek Stepan. I thought about going that route just to bring that veteran leadership role in, but I thought about going Matt Murray. Then again, it's a little bit too much cash for me still. So I decided to go with Shamus, and I ended up taking Chris Tierney,
Boy.
good centerman.
Lost.
He was just right for my cap hit. I thought I could spend this much on a centerman. I didn't even really know that Ottawa was still in the league. They really struggled, I thought, the last couple of years. I didn't see them on the leaderboards. I usually only scrolled the first couple lines, but that's who I would take, and that's my pick, Chris Tierney.
Yeah, I like Tierney. I'm gonna go with Decord. Just add another goalie that I can develop, possibly flip, and I just want to stockpile netminders, like I said all podcast long. And he's another guy that teams I think will be interested in. He'll be coming off an injury, but I'll take Joey and see what happens if teams are interested in picking him up. Philadelphia Flyers, real disappointing year. They just traded Philip Myers, Nolan Patrick. They get Ryan Ellis. They got some big decisions to make. They leave some of their veterans available for Seattle to ponder. Dawson, who do you like from the Philadelphia Flyers?
Well, I was kind of running out of money to spend on the big boys, so I kind of had to go around and discount and do some penny pinching, as Casey would say it. But I thought about going with Justin Braun. I love the D-men, but I ended up going with Jermaine Roopstop. Not much rattle in the NHL, but he's a young guy, and I feel like he might be able to make some sort of presence, and hard to get him hard on the budget right now, especially with some big expenditures coming down the line.
Okay, interesting. Definitely a lot of potential. We'll see. He's another one of those Russians that comes over and complains that he doesn't have a big enough role and ultimately goes back to Russia, but has a lot of potential and could be a top 6 forward. That's what Philly's banking on. Shay, who did you select?
I ended up taking Justin Braun, who we just mentioned. I just like a guy who's, could probably pay on your third pairing, kill penalties. He's a quiet player, but he does play with a little bit of meat and potatoes, as my boy Casey likes to say. So yeah, he's my pick. He was a safe one. It's, I almost cringed when I saw how much Jacob Voracek actually makes for what he produces. So I said, I'll probably stay away, and I'll go with a cheaper lad on this one.
Yeah, I was with you there. Big Justin Braun fan. He reminds me of Niskanen, lesser version, but again, a guy who's been a 5th-6th defenseman on a team that got to a Stanley Cup final, and that's invaluable experience, a good leadership as well. Casey, who did you take from the Philly roster?
Well, I decided, I might as well spend a little bit of cash. I said, it's only about time. You're getting down there in the lists. I said, who can I put in the high slot where I can just get someone to feed him the puck and he's going to go low glove, far post. So I went with JVR.
Wow.
That's my guy. Yeah, I got him penciled in for my lineup, and that's where I went. He's $7 million for the next couple years, but I got that room, so that's where I went.
Yeah, definitely an interesting option. When he's playing really well, he obviously can score 25 to 30 goals. He's been struggling since he came back to Philly. Last couple of years in Toronto weren't spectacular, but we'll see what he can bring. A new change of scenery could do him a lot of good as well. So we'll see if Seattle bites on that opportunity. That brings us to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have some interesting options. They're kind of state where are they competing? Are they going to sell? What to do with Crosby, Malkin, Letang? Dawson, who do you like from the Penguins roster?
This one here was the same thing as Philly. I had two guys I wanted to kind of pick, but same sort of role. I ended up going with Jason Zucker. More of a playmaker. He can produce. Last season wasn't his best season, but the year before he put up, I think, like 41 points, and he's been consistent with Minnesota. I think he'd be a key role in the Kraken, playing top two lines. I feel he'd be a good fit and role there.
Yeah, I love Zucker when he's healthy. I think he's a really, really good player. Hasn't really found that connection yet in Pittsburgh, but I hope he can, because he was great in Mini for a number of years. Shay, who did you take from the Penguins?
Yeah, I wanted to say Zucker as well, same as Dawson, but I ended up taking Brandon Tanev. Thought that was just an excellent signing by Jim Rutherford, getting him at 3.5. A lot of people probably shook their heads and kind of gave a couple head scratches at the same time, but Tanev's invaluable. He's a great third line winger who's just going to run around, body people, kill penalties, and if he gets you 20 points, well, that's even a bonus onto what he does besides scoring points. But yeah, I really do think Pittsburgh will end up Pittsburgh. I think Ron Francis will end up taking Jason Zucker, but if it was up to me, I'd be taking Tanev.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you, Shay. I love the guy. He's my kind of guy, but Zucker would be definitely more intriguing because of his potential offensive upside, and I think you would jump in and play a top 6 role, from jump. Where Tanev is he's on your third line, and hopefully he can stay because he's had some injury problems the last couple of years as well. Casey, Pittsburgh, who you selecting?
Well, I followed suit with you guys. I went with Brandon Tanev. I thought about going with Zucker, but I just for the term and the cap hit, I thought Brandon Tanev was the best piece, and I think if avoided injury, I think he can be a valuable piece for my bottom 6 for sure.
Great.
All right, that brings us to our last 7 selections here, as we got a couple Canadian teams left. We'll pivot to the San Jose Sharks. They again, in the state of rebuild, they got some big tickets out there if anybody's looking for one to add to Seattle. Dawson, your boy, he's lurking. Are you taking him on in Seattle?
From San Jose, no. I ended up going with Matt Nieto. Fourth line, he's gonna be the fourth line forward. Kind of put him in a center left wing role. Kind of gritting guy out. I never realized he was 28. I always pictured him as an older, like 33.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that, I thought it was kind of a no-brainer under $1 million cap hit too.
Yeah, no, he's been kicking around for a while. Colorado, San Jose. He's played a lot of playoff hockey as well, so that's good experience for him. Shay, where did you go?
Yeah, Nieto's on a good contract too. He's signed through it a couple of years, so and Casey's gonna love that $700K. Oof, that's sexy. He's licking his lips. But no, I took Ryan Donato. I think even though he's had an up and down career, he's had a lot of change. Unfortunately, I think if you sign him, give him a nice little contract, he's going to play in your top 9, and hopefully he's going to be able to produce like he's shown spurts of in his past. But yeah, highly skilled guy, and this guy screams Vegas to me in the sense that he may just end up popping off if he gets in the right line or the right place.
Yeah, no, all the talent in the world. We'll see if he can kind of keep that going consistently. Casey, a lot of cheap options here. Which one tickled your fancy the most?
Yeah, you guys know this is where I was just licking my chops. I seen all these guys make legal minimum, and I said, where am I gonna throw the dart? So I went up front. I went with forward Dylan Gambrell.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got that name right.
No,
Sorry
you
if I
did,
butchered
yeah.
it. Yeah, I went with them 700 sheets for 1 year. And then I gotta, I don't know, give him that year to test himself in the water, see if he's worth anything. If not, send him to Toronto.
You watch a lot of ECHL games, Casey?
No, not very many.
That's where he'll be playing.
I don't know if Seattle will have a roster. So.
Yeah, I went way off the board as well. I took Alexander True, one of the great WHL players in the last couple of years, but nobody really excited me from San Jose. And I said, I'll take the unknown. And if he never hits, well, I'll take my one shot in the dark where I've selected all other, NHL talents at least. I'll take Alexander True. Hopefully he can become a goal scorer in this league and not join Dylan Gambrell in the East Coast Hockey League anytime soon. St. Louis, another interesting team where they got some really good talent. got some unrestricted free agents that are intriguing. They got Vladimir Tarasenko sitting there. Dawson, where did you go with St. Louis?
Open up the wallet again for this one. I spent it on Vladimir.
Wow.
40 points almost regularly. Hard not to take him. There was a couple good players I thought about. There's Hoffman too at 4, but turned into a UFA. It's hard to say. One guy I really liked, it was cheap, was Sammy Blais. Plays hard and stuff. I ended up going with Tarasenko, just knowing that he can provide that offense. He's going to be your top forward going in. You're going to rely on him all the time.
Yeah, I like Sammy Blais a lot as well. But yeah, Tarasenko, gotta hope those shoulders can hold up because that's a big question mark looking forward to his career. Shay, I think I know what you did, but let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I hummed and hawed actually. I really was, in deep thought about this one, but yeah, same as Dawson. Gotta say Sanko. He's if he comes out healthy and he's motivated and he wants to shove it in St. Louis's face, he can easily just pop off for 30 goals. So yeah, he's like Dawson said, he's going to be your top winger, guy that's relied on every night. Probably not going to give him the C, but he may cry about that one. But we'll see what happens. But he's just kind of knows he's going to sever ways with St. Louis no matter how this ends up going. So if you can get him for free, well, why not do it?
Casey, did you whip out the pocketbook for Vladimir Tarasenko?
I went another route. I went no, I'm just joking. Yeah, I went with Vladimir Tarasenko. Yeah, we got him coming our way. I opened up the books. I'm taking him, whatever Gustavo security guard he needs from Russia. I'll bring him along too.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Whatever you need to get Vladimir into Seattle, we'll get him there. And it was really a tough choice between him and I thought about going with Scandella. I thought about going that route, but yeah, I ended up going the whole 7.5. So I hope that you guys can appreciate the spending. So
yeah, that's a big leap of faith for you, my man. That's a big burden on the cap.
Half minimum or what?
Yeah, he's sweating over there.
Yeah,
I wanted to take Nathan Walker so bad, but save. But
you didn't say up next.
Yeah. Yeah, I did not take Vladimir Tarasenko. I don't trust his injuries. I don't like his attitude. I don't particularly like him as a player. And I went with the riskier option, but like Austin Powers, I like to live dangerously. I took Mike Hoffman. My hope is that I can sign and trade him before free agency opens. So I'll sign him to a deal that's dealt with another team. I flip him to another roster, and maybe the deal is I give you Mike Hoffman and you give me another player in the expansion draft potentially. And it's kind of a back-ended deal through the salary cap where Hoffman is now yours. I get another player, potentially a draft pick in the draft in the next couple of years, and both teams win. So a little underhanded, but that's kind of my thought taking Mike Hoffman.
Yeah, pretty questionable in my opinion. I don't know if I would take it. I don't know. That's just he seems. I don't know. He's had issues in the past. Him and Carlson.
But is it more Carlson, Casey? That guy's kind of,
I don't know. It is what it is. The situation's been dealt with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to point fingers. It's a he said, she said, and Carlson is definitely the she said. So, yeah.
No, for sure. Tampa Bay, maybe the most interesting team, I think, of them all for me anyway. This is tough to pick one because they got so many good players available that are just sitting there. I wouldn't be surprised if we all pick a different guy. But Dawson, lead us on Tampa Bay Lightning. So many good players available. They couldn't protect them all. Who are you taking from the roster?
Well, I went with longtime Bolt. I went with Palat. It was really between. I think we're all thinking the 4 same guys here for the top of this. And really, I don't think you can choose wrong with who you can choose. But I like the way he plays, and he's always provided some offense. And he was my lock-in for right wing. He play on the top line with Tarasenko as well.
Yeah, no, great player and two-time Stanley Cup champion. He's done all he can in Tampa, that's for sure. Shay, who did you select?
Yeah, I went one down, Yanni Gord. I need a centerman again, and also I kind of look at contracts. I'm thinking, well, Pulock walk next year, where Yanni Gord signed until 2025. So at least you have that, and yeah, if he plays your second line center role well, I think that's perfect. You know exactly what he's going to do. That line he played on the last 2 years has been, just drives that team, unbelievable. And I think he'd bring that same, that same passion and same excitement to a Seattle team as well. Yeah, just a warrior and a great player who plays undersized, but unbelievable.
Casey, who did you select?
Well, just want to say what a roster to look through. Like the guys that they couldn't protect. It's better than most other rosters in the league. So, it was pretty much a field day. I wanted to get good piece on the back end. I was thinking about going with David Savard. Then I said, you got to negotiate. Not my cup of tea. Then I thought Luke Shen, I need a staple back there that's going to drop the gloves with Matt Martin 4 times a year. But I said, you know what? That's not going to happen either. So I spent a couple bucks. I went with Yanni Gord as well. I couldn't praise his game higher. He's not Braden Point, but he's the next best thing in my opinion. So that's where I went.
Yeah, it was Palat or Gord, and I, like Shay, I wanted the centerman. So I took Yanni Gord, but yeah, what a roster. It would intrigue me to take Coleman and try to negotiate, because that kid can freaking play. But yeah, tough.
Chuggy, I'm surprised you didn't take Curtis McElhinney and try to get another Tendy in there. Wild vet.
I know. I get a good pick for him, I'll tell you that. 2-time Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mike Babcock might give me a first.
I had one other pick. I guess it was a kind of a dark horse. I didn't really have the room for Gord, but what do you think about Matthew Joseph? What do you think of his game? Do you think he is a good player for Seattle?
I think he'd be an easy selection if he wasn't on Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, great player. Love that you can just plug him into most lineups and he's able to figure it out with almost anybody.
But no, I like his game a lot. I think he's going to be I think he can be a top 6 forward.
Yeah, pretty good. 2 cup rings in his years. You can't hear anything the Leafs are saying.
Speaking of the Leafs, that brings us to the Toronto Maple Leafs. We got 3 Canadian teams in the last 4 here. Toronto, they've been talked about more than the Tampa picks, which is crazy in the media, but they got some players, I wouldn't call them great players, available. So Toronto's not exactly losing anybody that's so important to their core. But we'll change it up. We'll start with Shay. He's wearing the Toronto jersey. So Shay, who are you gonna miss next year on the Leafs roster?
Well, I'm just so attached to all of these guys. We just had a great bonding and heartbreak this year with what happened at the end of the year. So I got to ship the guy that hasn't set foot on the ice for Toronto. That's Jared McCann. I think he's played really, really well in Pittsburgh in their top 9, and he seems like an excellent player. So yeah, I'd take my cards on that. I really think it's a bonehead move by Dubas to trade for a guy and not to protect him. But I'm sure he is probably full faith that Alex Kerfoot's on his way out the door.
Yeah, I like McCann more than I like Kerfoot, I'll tell you that. Dawson, your selection.
Yeah, so to be honest, no one piqued my fancy at all.
Shut up, you idiot. Oh my God.
No one was worth it, but I ended up having to pick, and I went with Ben Hutton on the back end. He is a rugged defenseman and fills up that 9 spot that I need at a cheap price.
I gotta say, I am floored by that.
Pretty wild, I'm not gonna lie. Good for you, Dawson.
It's interesting, for certainly. I think Dubas will be pissed if it's Ben Hutton that's taken on Wednesday night.
Oh my God.
Casey, that'd be a good bargain for you, my friend.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking about going, to be honest. I was thinking about leaning that way, maybe going with Callie Rosen. But yeah, no, I looked through this lineup and I just absolutely was ready to just vomit some of these guys that get paid.
Oh my God.
They play so bad. So I don't know if you lose 4 games to the Habs and you're up 3-1, it's probably best if you trade Jared McCann, let him go, because you don't want to bring him into that. I mean, he's an Ontario kid. You don't want him to be tortured by the media in his own city. I mean, that's what Toronto's born and bred. They just roast everyone in the media. You know, rest in peace to Pablo Matthews and Mitch Marner. I know that they're at every UFC event ever. So it's yeah. I went with Jared McCann. I got to get him out of there, save his career.
That's nice of you. Yeah, I read Darren Dreger's tweet the other day saying that Alex Kerfoot was not protected. Very good player. I'm going to have to buy a new TV because I don't think he's a very good player whatsoever. I think a centerman who can't play center is like basically useless, so got to love him being available. Then you got Travis Dermott, another guy that I know, Dawson on the panel, and he's a big fan. So I'll take Kerfoot if I'm Seattle, but give me a 2nd round pick. I'm not doing you a favor. I'm not giving you $3.5 million in cap space just because you you traded him for Nazem Kadri, terrible trade. That's not happening. I'll take Dermott just because I have to take somebody. And maybe you flip him, maybe he plays, but nobody. I mean, Mikheyev can't, the combined 4 of us can score better at home than Mikheyev can on the ice. And same with Engvall. I'll take Dermott and take my chances with him. Shay, your thoughts?
I mean, I would love I tweeted, or I put this on my Insta story. If Seattle would do us a favor and get rid of Travis Dermott, it may be the best day of my life. Actually, I'd be happier than when my first child was born. Thank you to Ron Francis in advance if you do take him. But like you, I think Kerfoot's coming off the board.
I don't think he's coming off the board. You
don't think so?
Unless I get a pick.
Oh, throw in a 7th or
7
bottle of water.
2nd or 3rd.
Worse than me.
Give me a 2nd or 3rd. I'll take Kerfoot.
I don't know. Maybe Wayne Simmons just leaves. I'm not sure.
Do I get the nursing home with it or?
I'm hard on the Leafs. Such a great team. Oh.
Well, see, I respect the team. I just don't think they're that smart at signing free agents. And the kind of proofs in the pudding. Vancouver Canucks, Casey's team. He loves them. Disappointing year last year. Let's start with Case. Case, who you taking from Vancouver?
Well, I seen Louis Eriksson up there, and I seen Brandon Sutter. I have so much space left for cap. It's like startling. But I decided to stick with the trend. I decided to get this guy. He's a blooming center in the league. I think give him another couple of years, he's going to be right up there if you give him a new home. Now we're going to the PEI. We're going Zach McEwen. That's who I'm taking. Yep, that's my pick.
Yeah, that is also my pick. I think Vancouver I don't know what they have against this kid. They don't give him a shot ever. Last year, they're not playing him. Well, Jake Virtanen, they're playing for no good reason. Now he's got some lawsuit against him, so now they can't play him. But yeah, McEwen can fight. I think he can score if you give him a chance. And they did. I think Vancouver's done him a big disservice to start his career, and I hope he gets a second chance in Seattle. Dawson, how about you?
Oh, I stuck with the Maritime boy. I grew up playing against him. He's a big boy, can fight, and you give him the puck anywhere in the offensive zone, give him a chance.
Yeah.
I thought about taking Highmore. Well, he's a very skilled guy, a great skater, but with McEwen being a little bit bigger, I lean towards him.
Shay, round us out for Vancouver. Who did you select?
Just a throwaway pick here. I took Madison Bowie. You know, kind of up there in age now. He kind of past what he could have been, but same time, if he can play on a bottom pairing, he may be able to surprise some people.
Last two selections: Washington Capitals, Winnipeg Jets. Washington, they got some decent players available because they do have a good team as well. Dawson, who'd you take from the Washington Capitals?
Went with another D-man, Jug.
It's a full lineup of defensemen in this team.
Yeah,
17 of them.
Yeah.
I ended up picking Michael Kempney,
Wow.
the back end. Little shifty guy. He's a little bit older, but I've always liked the way he's played. And two, you get him for expires in 2022. So see, rough it out. So those might be able to flip him for something in the future because I got so many defensemen on my squad.
You do. It's like my goalie theory, but you did it with defense. So we'll see which one plays out the best. Shay, who did you take from Washington?
Yeah, I took a defenseman a little bit more up in the price range, but I took Brendan Dillon. You know, solid top four defenseman, rugged as hell. Plays on that gritty side, loves to work the corners. So yeah, I think he'd be a good option. He's signed for quite a while, and been to the Cup final with San Jose. So hoping with this team he can do the same.
Case?
I I had a hard time going through. You know, I wanted to go with Ovechkin just to add that goal scoring pizzazz, but I didn't end up going that route. I really leaned towards the back end. I got pretty much what you would say is the staple of defense when it comes to hockey. I thought about it really. I almost penciled him in. I thought it was Chara. I almost put him in there for Dawson because he's an old Senator, but you know, they moved on to greener pastures. So I ended up going with Vanacek from the goaltending position.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Good pick.
So that's where I went. You know, I thought about going with Ovi, put goals in the net, but I need a guy to keep him out too. So that's where I went. Yeah,
he's certainly an interesting option in net. I think he's got a lot of upside. They got Samsonov. They're looking at different options, but I like him as well. I had two. I had a defenseman and a forward who I love. And both these guys I really like. I decided to take Brendan Dillon because I do love him, but it pained me to not take Garnet Hathaway because he's a junkyard dog and he'll go through a brick wall trying to win. And he'd be a good guy to put on that fourth line in Seattle, start a franchise. But I see teams that are winning in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They all have big defense cores. And that's how I decided to build this team. And I think Dillon's a guy that can do that. So I decided to go with another girthy defenseman to try to run through my brick wall come playoff time. Now that brings us to the Winnipeg Jets, the last pick of this expansion draft as we got through it here tonight. We'll go Case to Dawson now. Casey, start us off. The last pick of the expansion draft, Winnipeg Jets. Who are you taking?
Well, I had some money left over, and you know that for me was just great because that's money in my pocket at the end of the day. So I went with Dylan DeMello. I signed him up for my team. That's where I went. He seems to be this pretty good defenseman. He seems to get the job done. So if he shut down McDavid for a series, so he's got to be playing all right.
Shamus?
Yeah, Dylan DeMello Stanley Cup is shutting down Connor McDavid. Just unbelievable task. I had a tough time with this one, Juggy, between Mason Appleton and Jansen Harkins. Both young studs for Winnipeg, and both guys I think, if they don't get picked, they're going to be future building blocks on this team. But I took Appleton, and I think his game is unbelievable. Ton of talent. Every time I watched Winnipeg and Toronto this year, I had my eyes glued to him because he's exciting to watch and he does a lot out there.
Absolutely. Dawson?
Great minds think alike, Shay. I also picked Appleton.
Can I switch mine? Can I switch mine right now?
I was gonna go with another D man with Jordy Ben and try to flip him, but I like Appleton's style too much to let him go.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Jordy Ben. Yeah, that was a good deadline acquisition by Kevin Cheveldayoff. I went with Casey. I went with Dylan DeMello. I think he's gonna put up maybe 10 points a year, but he's super steady. Good a pass out of the zone again. He can handle his way. He's a bigger guy on the back end, and I think you can get a good trade for Dylan DeMello as well because he's been there, done that, and he's a good player to have on your team. But that's going to do it for our expansion draft. We got through it. It's officially the longest podcast that I've ever done here on To The Point. So we can all celebrate that together with a little silent clap. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining me. This was a ton of fun. I loved seeing you guys, whether it's virtual or in person, but just good to get some laughs. And just to wrap up, Dawson, what do you got on the go the rest of this week?
Oh, not much. I got gonna be on the road this week. We got a couple jobs in Miramichi. Gonna be shutting down the road where Casey lives. Gonna be making lots and lots of people happy, and hopefully come weekend time we can kind of slow down and maybe relax a bit. Yourself?
Work and then some more podcasting with Shay tomorrow. Talking about some Breaking Bad. So always fun doing that. Try to watch the expansion draft, try to put in the NHL draft at the end of the week, and then maybe some festivities at the end of the week. Who knows? Still trying to recover from last weekend. Shay, how about you? What's on the docket?
Well, you'll be hearing my horrible voice for tomorrow night again. But other than that, just painting, moving, packing. It's going to the new home this Saturday, so it's gonna be a ton of fun. But same as you, I'll definitely make time to watch the expansion draft this week because I'm eager to see who was most correct on this podcast.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to compare, and we'll keep this group chat going for Wednesday night so we can kind of look at each other's and see who's on the right track for sure. Good luck with the moving and everything, and I'll definitely be up in the not too distant future to check out the new pad. Casey, how about you? Work? What else do you got in the go?
Yeah, like everybody else, I got to work here and there, and then I got to deal with Dawson, my good buddy, shutting down the roads. So that'll be a nice wrench in everyday plans trying to get to the golf course. But we'll work past it if we can maybe convince Dawson to get that crew on the weekends. Finish up that project pretty quick. We'll be all right. That'll be perfect.
Yeah. No, well, I just want to say, guys, thank you so much. I know it took a lot of your evening tonight, so I really appreciate it. And we'll have to do this again in the future. Dawson can talk about his Saints, and we have a couple of Brownies on here now that are repping Baker Mayfield. So we'll have to talk some football in the fall.
Absolutely.
I
Before
love
we
it.
go,
Let's do it.
Casey, what was your minimum cap hit? We got to know. You saving bucks?
I ended up with I never wrote it down. Oh, I ended up spending 76. So that's not too much, but it's not too bad.
You couldn't have spent 76.
Yeah.
How?
76 and a half to be honest.
I have to check that, but I'll take your word for it tonight.
Send
Send it to me. But thanks again, guys, for joining me. For everybody listening, hope you guys enjoyed this. Let us know what you think in the comments about our picks and everything that we did right and wrong this evening. But as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk soon.